For a while now, I've been wanting to make an episode of this YouTube channel about candid street portrait photography. It was one of the most intimidating things for me when I started taking photos, but with practice, it can quickly become second nature. This video is actually an episode of Phototalks, which is my series about different contemporary photographers and their photography process. This episode features my friend Wesley Verhoeve, who's one of the most talented street portrait photographers that I know. He travels the world shooting portraits for magazines like National Geographic, and he curates for the ICP, which is one of the most established photography museums. I thought he needed a little bit more of an introduction than the humble one that he gave himself in the video, so without further ado, enjoy this episode of Phototalks.
My name is Wesley Verhoeve, and I'm a photographer and curator. As a photographer, I focus on portraiture and travel photography, and within travel, it's mostly environmental portraiture as well. And as a curator, I focus mostly on emerging new voices, specifically in what we call concerned photography when I do my curation for the ICP, International Center of Photography. Concerned photography, which is photography with a societal angle to it. So it could be anything from equal pay and women's rights, or representation of a certain group of people in mainstream culture. It's pretty broad, but it's very specifically about things that have a societal layer. Both my client and my personal work has been pretty exclusively focused on environmental portraiture. I've been lucky to do some big commercial jobs that wanted that same kind of editorial vibe that my personal work looks like. So I've just been shooting like one type of work for the last year, which has helped me kind of do a deep dive into that type of work and get better at it. I'm lucky to shoot for National Geographic Traveler a fair amount, and with that, it's more like the story is kind of already written, and then I get to photographically interpret it, if you will. I focus mainly on portraiture photography, whether that's straight portraiture or environmental portraiture. But yeah, for the most part, it's about people in their environment. I'm just deeply curious about different people and what makes them tick, and the camera is my excuse to get to talk to them and to hopefully capture them in their most true self. It's definitely my passion, but it's almost also like an excuse to get to talk to these people. I understand why it will be intimidating to most people to approach a stranger to take their photo, but if you do it a lot, then it gets easier. And also if you do it a lot, you notice that for the most part, depending on where you are, culturally, of course, it's different in different places, but depending on where you are, most people are pretty happy to be approached by someone who is nice and wants to take their photo. Sometimes it can still be a little intimidating depending on the person, but then I also know that if I don't ask and I don't take the photo, I'm going to be thinking about that photo that I didn't take for a longer time. But for the most part, I just try to connect with someone. I try to have like eye contact and smile and point out the thing that I noticed. Maybe they have a really cool hat or a dog or something else that sparked my interest that I would like to talk to them about. And then, and if they say no, that's okay. I'm not going to be upset about it. I'll be like, okay, cool, don't worry. A photographer always has a responsibility to represent the place that they're trying to show to the world, right? When I go to a place that I've never been to, I always do a fair amount of research, and I try to find underexposed stories. I'm trying to show, just purely from my own interest even, like the things that are not as well covered. And I think I do that for myself, but I think that's also more interesting for whoever gets to see the photos. And as far as the responsibility of a photographer goes to the place and the people that she or he is photographing, I think that's part of that. I think it's important to not go for the cliches, whether that's the type of people or the activities there. I think you owe it to yourself as a curious creative to seek out a diverse set of situations and people and activities to capture if you intend to, represent that city or that country or whatever you're working on right now. Can I take a photo of you? Yeah? Watch out though, watch out. Woo! Let me get you here. Actually, put like right between, yeah, like that. Perfect. Awesome. 1, 2. There we go. Thank you. What's your name? Just like here, so that it's not so harsh. Gloves on, just like that. Okay, just look at me. 1, 2. I pick the place that I want to go to, and then I try to add some client work to that, because I get to work with a fair amount of internationally minded clients. So that means I usually like mix and match a little bit. Like, okay, it's a trip. I'm going to shoot part personal work and part client work, and that's kind of the idea. I think of it more as me supporting the clients than the clients supporting me doing what I do, because they need photos. If it's a travel publication, there's such a demand for, especially in the digital age, like they need a lot of stuff all the time. So if I'm already in Mexico City, for example, and I reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm in Mexico City, I found this interesting ritual, or I found this interesting story, etc. Would you be interested in it? Then that's cheaper for them and easier for them to say yes to than if I wait for someone to send me out on an assignment. That's way more expensive for the client and less interesting for me, because I like to pick the things that I do. And there's this amazing photographer who's she's in her 70s, Corinne Simpson, incredible photographer, and she put into words what I've always kind of felt. And she said it's really important for photographers to self-assign. So rather than wait for an assignment, self-assign. Like, what is it that you're interested in? Go shoot that, and then reach out to people to see if you can place it somewhere. And if you can't place somewhere, you still shot it and you can publish it yourself. And I think that's definitely something that a belief that I adhere to. I think, she had like a great example where she decided, I'm interested in the Muhammad Ali fight. This is a long time ago, in the Muhammad Ali fight in Madison Square Garden. So I'm just gonna go there and shoot all the people in their amazing outfits that were going to the fight. She did, and then ended up being published in a bunch of publications because it looked incredible and no one had that angle. Wow, that's really cool. This book is the first or second most recommended book on the observers, and it's the classic The Americans by Robert Frank. Really a game changer. It's the first person to really take photos of normal people, everyday life, not all pretty, just real things. Here, look at this one. Amazing. If someone is interested in doing documentary style portraiture, maybe they're nervous about it, they don't know what to approach, like what kind of theme to approach, it's not that complicated. You just go outside and bring your camera and start doing it. And maybe you'll be shy in the beginning. I was shy in the beginning, everybody's shy in the beginning, but the more you do it, the easier it gets as far as like getting over that nervous hump. Just practice seeing. What I'm focused on, and what we're focused on with the observers, a project that I work on, is learning how to see better, because that's in the end what distinguishes one photographer from the next. It's not gear, it's not money, it's not access can be a big thing, but it's mostly how to see. Like, if you notice things that are unique to you, then your work is going to look more unique. By being outside and shooting a lot, you are practicing seeing, and anything you practice you get better at. So I would just say get out there, and focus on your neighborhood. You don't have to go to Japan to make good photos. You don't have to go anywhere. You can literally just sit on your stoop and take photos of your neighborhood or the people, your neighbors, your family. I actually think the closer to yourself, the more interesting it can be. Maybe you're a young photographer who loves horse riding. That's like your other hobby. Take photos of all the horse riders in your horse riding club, or of the horses, or of the space. It doesn't really matter. Like, you have a rich mine of stories right around you, and I think that's really good to remember. Like, you don't have to go to Japan to take good photos.